Hello, I'm Snehashish Karmakar, and here I am to present in front of you on the topic of the beginning of philosophy. The beginning of philosophy came with the birth of Socrates and his thoughts, and the period before Socrates or Socratic philosophy was known as pre-Socratic philosophy. The philosophy is basically divided into two parts: Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy. Now, Western philosophy has got its original roots from Greek philosophy, and the ancient Greek philosophy from the ancient Greek philosophy, and the word philosophy means lover of wisdom. The ancient Greek philosophy consisted of three primary figures: Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. The work of philosophy was to find out the truth involving various natural phenomena and occurrences. Philosophy has got its deep roots in places like Mesopotamia, Egypt, and early Greek philosophers like Homer at 800 BCE before Christ era used mythological stories to explain natural world. And in the early time, it was a tradition to explain everything on the basis of stories. And ancient Greek philosophy arose in the 6th century BC in the region of Greece and Asia Minor. Rise of Western philosophy took place usually in the trade routes through Meander Valley, that is, from Asia, through which the trade routes got propagated. Early Greek philosophers were pre-scientific scientists asking questions about natural order and phenomena. Early philosophy, origin of cosmos, difference between East and West philosophy, etc., etc. Early Greek philosophy also contained their philosophical thought in the literary work. For example, Odysseus and Iliad, written by Aeschylus and Sophocles, contained an order to cosmos in their dramas and literature. The two lines of thought of physical cosmos are one that focuses on the reflection of physical cosmos, and the other which focuses on the reflection of moral order. Lines of thought of Greek philosophy were of two types: reflection of physical cosmos and reflection of moral order. There was also a differentiation of pre-Socratic philosophers which believed on monism and pluralism. While to say monism is a faith of philosophers which believe or which is persistent on believing that everything is one and everything is unity. For example, the universe is one, the God is one, etc., etc. While pluralism had a faith or belief that more than one entities were required for the proper maintenance and running of the universe, for almost everything. For example, day and night, truth and lie, men and women, and likewise. Monism on the qualitative basis was followed by Malaysian school of thought, while quantitative monism was followed by Eleatic school of thought, which was prevalent in Italy. The pluralism also consisted of qualitative and quantitative types. The qualitative pluralism was also followed by Malaysian school of thought. The school of philosophy, or the philosophical subject, dealt with a wide variety of subjects, and with the development of philosophy there was a slow and steady growth of a wide variety of subjects. For example, astronomy, mathematics, ontology, logic, political philosophy, biology, ethics, rhetorics, metaphysics, aesthetics. By one of the scholars, Alfred North Whitehead, noted the safest general characterization of European philosophical tradition is that it consists of a series of footnotes to Plato, in which he indicated that Plato is responsible for the construction of European philosophical tradition, as because we have a lots of information imparted by Plato which explain the basis of philosophy. Initial tendency to find one basic element, that is monism. Thales thought everything is reducible to one element, which is water. According to him, water was the basis of everything. As he had no knowledge of chemistry, nor had he seen periodic table, but now in modern era we know that water is H2O, which consists of two elements, two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. But basic philosophical idea was roughly helped in the development of concept of atom and also in the concept of periodic table. Since water since in nature water is the essential part of our life as well as for both plants and animals, so maybe Thales concluded that water is the basic stuff for entire life and living itself. There was another philosopher, Anaximander, who brought similar conclusion. He observed that both wetness and dryness, heat and cold, light and dark, etc. He concluded that there is two opposing characters. So he used the word pyrene, which means undefinable, and he thought the basic element of everything is air. Classical Greek in classical Greek philosophy, four basic elements were considered. For example, earth, air, water, fire. The element of air was considered as the basic element by Anaximander. Fire was considered as basic element by Heraclitus and Pythagoras. Water was considered as basic element by Thales, and two philosophers, Pythagoras and Heraclitus, gave a double. They concluded a double aspect of everything. This Pythagoras was the same Pythagoras who gave the Pythagoras theorem, in which hypotenuse square to the base square and perpendicular square was the given equation by him in a right angle triangle. These two our philosophers concluded that everything seems to be changing, but there was an order to it. Heraclitus thought that there was fire and there was logos, which intended for the change, but Pythagoras had a difference with him in the thought that he thought everything was made up of with fire, and there was a mathematical order to everything in the universe. Numerically, everything was ordered and arranged, and things which were about to happen were also based on mathematics. So basically, there is a footnote or a suggestion is drawn from, or information is drawn from this observation, that besides everything changing in our life, we should have an ordered fashion or orderly fashion to these changes in life. Zenoism and Parmenideism school of thought were never made. Why they were never made? Let's try to understand it on the basis of an example. For example, a millet seed produces sound 0. Now if we drop 10,000 millet seeds, so the sound produced 0 multiplied by 10,000 gives us 0, which is not true in reality. So this kind of thought or this kind of approaches toward philosophy is not true, because Zenoism or Parmenideism thought that everything is illusion. Whatever is happening around us is an illusion or a false perception. So why would we even consider the conclusion to be true? Because even might saying the conclusion, it turned out to be a misconception. Another philosopher, Greek philosopher named Xenophilus, he thought everything was made up of a special kind of seed. The seed for curly hair, the seed for bones, the seed for tissues, etc. etc. He indirectly somehow pointed out the presence of genes or cells that we know nowadays in modern world. Another Greek philosopher, Anaxagoras, he thought everything was controlled by nous or cosmic mind, and he thought that everything had been taking place in proper order, in proper orientation and proper direction with the help of divine intervention, or in his own words, nous. Now we would talk about the main motive or the main agenda or the main goal in order to discuss all sorts of philosophy, or rather let's say all sorts of philosophical views of various people. I can become a philosopher by sitting on my bed by tomorrow, but who would listen to me? What is the main motive? Why would people listen to other people? Or what is the goal? It is because metaphysics is a subject, or it is an approach to philosophy in which various unsolvable or unanswerable questions are given an attempt to be answered. In other words, it is a subject which deals with the answers or the problems that the humankind is unknown to. Another basic agenda of philosophy is epistemology. Epistemology is the experience based on is the knowledge based on experience, but which is not always true. We cannot rely upon experience for achieving a certain goal, as the situation or circumstances on which the experience is based may change on different circumstances. So we cannot rely for philosophical knowledge or to derive scientific information on epistemology solely. Now Geeta will explain the remaining parts.
Now I will explain you about the thoughts of Greek philosophers. The thinking of each philosophers were different from each other. Now let's see what was it. I will tell you about the thoughts of Socrates. He was a great Greek philosopher.
Socrates said that there is only one good, knowledge, and one evil, ignorance. Here, in a life of a medical student, if he does not study good and ignore everything about medicine while studying, and if he passes by average marks, then he will face many problems while doing job. As when he will open his own hospital, he will not know that which medicine should be given for a particular disease. Then he will risk many patients' life and he will later face many problems. So if in his studying time he had ignored his studies, then he cannot be a good doctor. The second thought said by Socrates was, strong minds discuss ideas, average mind discuss events, and weak mind discuss people. Yes, this thought is very much true in nowadays life. As we know, if two scientists are strong-minded people, if they discuss together about something, then it can be good for our technology and even more development will be occurred. For an average-minded people, like if two doctors discuss about a disease, then they can find cure for it and save many people's life. So, what are the weak-minded peoples? The weak-minded peoples are the people who are lazy, who do not like to work and also do not have anything to do. So, they will talk about the people who are good from them and are doing very well in their life. So these weak-minded people will say bad things about other peoples, as they are very free and has many time, so they will invest their time for saying bad things about other people.
I will explain you the thoughts of the Plato. Plato was the second Greek philosopher.
Plato said that we can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. So here, as we know, the child is innocent and he does not have experience about what things are present in dark, like some wild animals or poisonous animals, or also even ghosts, which is not real through scientific way. So the child can be forgiven. But what about the men? Can men be afraid of light? Yes, this can happen. So he can have photophobia. So he must be afraid of light. This can be cured by medical and psychological ways. So in past, if a man has exposure to a bright light, then he may have photophobia, and thus he does not like the light. The second thinking of Plato is thinking, the talking of the soul with itself. Yes, this is true, as if we have to drink water, then we don't think about anything and just go and drink. But if a person need help, then first we will think that no, I have many more important work to do. But later we will think that I should help that person as he is in pain. So this thinking comes from our soul for helping that person.
I will speak about the thoughts of Aristotle. Aristotle was the student of Plato.
The first thought of Aristotle is pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. In Asian countries like India, parents do not ask their children that what he like to become in his life. They only say that he will become a doctor or an engineer. So the children who don't want to be a doctor or engineer, he will try to work, but he will not be interested in that job. So the job will get affected and will not earn much money. And if the child is allowed to do job according to his will, then he will enjoy the job and even will become very good in that job. The second thought of Aristotle is we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. Here we can say that in the life of a student, if he don't like any subject, then he should read or repeat that subject again and again till he should understand the subject or get interest in that subject. So at a particular time it will become his habit to study, and he will like that subject so much that he will study it more and more.
Now further, my friend Ashish will explain you.
So now I will explain you about why is Greek philosophers important, what were their beliefs, how did they make money, and how they affected the Greek society, and how did the Greek philosophers spread the Greek philosophy. So ancient Greek philosophy was the attempt made by some ancient Greeks to make sense out of the world around them and explain things in a non-religious way. These philosophers used their intelligence and reasoning skills instead of mythology to understand the world. Greek philosophers were seekers and lovers of wisdom. They studied and analyzed the world around them using logic and reason. Although we often think of philosophy as a religion or meaning of life, but these philosophers thought a logical way, and they did not use religion for their thinking. They used logical and reasoning for seeing the life in their way. Many of the philosophers were also scientists. They used to study mathematics, physics, and biology. The idea of Greek philosophy affected Greek society. They helped others study or learn about science, maths, and political science. They believed that humans' mind could understand everything. They thought that if they could think, then other people could also think. So they tried to make them learn and study what they know. Because of this, they affected today's society with public speaking, government, and political ideas. So now we will be having a question that how did Greek philosophers earn money? So the Greek philosophers did not earn money because they did not need it much. Some of them used to beg on the streets, and some of them used to do job in the morning or in the day and work in the night. These ancient Greek philosophers shaped the foundation of Western thoughts. When the Rome conquered the Greek world, they adopted parts of Hellenistic philosophy, and the Hellenistic ideas spread through the whole entire Rome. And this is how the Greek philosophy spread all over the world. So let's take a look again to the Greek philosophers. The three main philosophers were Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Socrates was called the father of Greek philosophy. He has new teaching methods, and he asked new thought-provoking questions, which is used nowadays also. Plato studied human behavior and also studied ethics, virtue, and justice. And Aristotle studied the logic and modern zoology. Now, all the scientists or the philosophers which they studied in that days, today we study this in modern day law schools. So, philosophy is very important in the field of knowledge and understanding. Thank you.